Welcome to the Brooks Brown Plantation. So nice to have you with me this morning. I'm looking forward to talking to you about this old house. This house was built in 1813, so that makes it over 208 years old. And where we're standing right now is the first structure that was built back then. And as years went by, more and more additions to the house was put onto it. It was a Brooks Brown Plantation was a tobacco plantation, and back in the 1800s, and its main product was chewing tobacco, which is still being produced today over in Martinsville area. So it's really interesting. And this property was in its heyday. This room that we're sitting in right now, we call it the Great Hall, was used for dancing. They would come in, they have the whole place to be would be wide open, and they'd come up with their carriages with the white horses and the white carriages, and they'd be all dressed up fancy like, and they would come in, they'd have their like a ballroom dance in this particular room. But in the beginning, several thousand acres came with this property in the beginning for tobacco. And as I said, the product was chewing tobacco. There was a factory right next to the property on the outside that over the years has deteriorated, so I can't really tell where it was, but that's where the process for making chewing tobacco was done. This house has had many different things occurring in its history. Like I said earlier, it was a tobacco plantation. It also was a tavern and a lodging place that connected Danville to Roanoke itself. So it was called the Halfway House back in the middle 1800s, and the stagecoach would bring all the passengers to this place. And there were four rooms that they could, if they chose to lodge there for the evening. There was 4 rooms on the bottom floor and 4 rooms on the upper floor, so they could accommodate many people who rather stay during the weather here. The kitchen, which we normally have in our homes now, the kitchen on the same floor, but the kitchen was built below this level, go into a basement. So there used to be a stairway that would go down to what they call the dining room. This was one of the entryways into the winter kitchen that was slated to do all the work. Right now it's been converted into a workshop and a mess. This is not only was where they prepared the food, they also had their dining room tables and chairs, and they all ate down here as well. And unfortunately, most of the things over here, but there's a fireplace here that do all their cooking. So I've converted it into a workshop, but and the entry from the house would be behind those white doors, straight ahead. In fact, there is still a stairway which shows how it went down from the top floor down to here. There's another building about 20 feet away from this house. That's a 40-foot long building, about 20 feet wide, and in the middle of the building was a huge fireplace that heated both sides of the building. And the building on the right was what was used for their summer kitchen. Back in those days, there were many slaves, many workers of the plantation, and all the cooking was done by slaves in that particular building in the back. So on the right-hand side was a summer kitchen, so that they could do all the cooking there. And then on the other side was I think about 20 foot by 20 foot area, was a little schoolhouse for in that time for the white children. This side was a schoolhouse. You can see some of the drawings they did back in those on the walls. But there was a big fireplace here that they would do all their cooking and all the preparation. When they had these banquets, they go on for 2 or 3 weeks at a time. So people from all over would be coming and they'd be served. And some of the students drew pictures of women in Victorian dresses and things like that. But one of the historical significance of that particular building was that the first African American cast his vote in that building. So historically, it's a monumental time where a black man was able to have the right to vote, and he's the first one, and we believe the first one either in the county or even in the state who cast his vote for an election in that little schoolhouse.
Family.
Yeah.
This house has undergone a lot of construction, not only from its first beginning and gradually added on to, but it was in disrepair after 30 years of being vacant. And a couple took it over in 1972 to begin to make all of the repairs. The plaster had fallen down from the walls, part of the front deck and veranda had started to give way. The staircase in there, the railings were missing. And what they did was to repair it and probably update the electricity and the plumbing. And 2 other families before us have lived in the house, and as the lady before us said, everybody's taking it and bringing it along a little bit further. The little house out there that was the summer kitchen and the schoolhouse was in total disrepair when we came, and Grandpa took it, and he re-sided it with clapboard, and he removed the ceiling so you can see the actual beams in the ceiling, and and he put in windows. There were just holes there, and some of the foundation, they're just stones, and they left holes when they fell over. So he's done a lot of work on that house, and we just haven't modernized it. This is the house from the after it had built up over the kitchen, a whole room, and they put part of the back deck, and later the whole deck was put on. This is, you can see the disrepair of the house. There was a railing gone in the foyer, and the plaster coming off the walls. I believe this is the downstairs, the kitchen downstairs fireplace. These were the kind of doors that they had that went into the Great Hall. This is a picture of the house at about 1971, when this was a current kitchen. They took off the roof and built it all up to a whole second floor.
It's an old house. It's got its creaks. It's got its draftiness to it, but it is old. When you came into the front, those boxwoods that lined our sidewalk are original. They're going over 200-something years old, as well as many other parts of the property.